Good morning, viewers. In our last video on the break-even analysis, we had a look at how to perform break-even analysis with the computational approach, and I promised to deliver on the graphical approach. So today we are going to look at how we can determine break-even point from a graph. So before we can take a complex illustration, we want us to look at a very simple way we can construct a break-even chart. We know break-even analysis is also termed as cost volume profit analysis. It means that when you are performing this analysis, you need your total cost, you need the unit you produce or sell, and you need your profit. At least these three items are required to be able to perform break-even analysis. So with this illustration I want us to take, let's assume we are in a business that sells mobile phones, and these mobile phones are supplied by particular suppliers or producers, and with the arrangement with them, they require us to pay subscription fee before they can start supplying us with mobile phones. So in this case, this subscription fee we will pay. It doesn't matter whether we order from them or not. You still have to pay the same amount. So it means the subscription fee will be regarded as a fixed cost, right? It is not affected by the volume or the quantity of phones that we will sell within the period. So in this case, we will need what you call the fixed cost, right? In every break-even analysis, fixed cost is a requirement, variable cost is a requirement, and these two will give us the total cost. So I'll have my fixed cost here, and in this case, to be able to register with the suppliers to give me mobile phones to sell, I have to pay 100 as my subscription. So that 100 becomes my variable cost, my fixed cost. Then to sell each unit of a mobile phone, I will incur a variable cost. So a variable cost per unit, and this variable cost per unit is let's say 1. I will have to incur additional 1 cedi to sell 1 unit of mobile phone. And when I am selling them, that is a revenue or price per unit, right? So my revenue per unit, that is when I sell a unit of mobile phone, I sell it for 6. So with this data, I want us to look at how to determine break-even point. So how many units do I have to sell so that I don't make profit, I don't incur loss? So this is what we are going to do. And we will present the data on a chart. Okay, so let me go to row 5 and type in here units. And then in B6, I'll compute my total revenue here. In C, I'll compute my total cost. And then in D, I'll compute my profit or loss. So my profit or my loss. Okay. Now, this time, we don't know, we've not been given the unit that we are to sell. So I'm assuming that we can sell from either 1 and beyond. So 1, 2, and let me increase these numbers to, let's say, 25. So assuming that I am to sell 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 25, which can go beyond that. Now within this range, I want to find out at what unit will I make no profit nor loss. Now, the next to do is to calculate the total revenue at each levels, right? Total revenue, this is the revenue per unit. That is when you sell 1, we sell it for 6. So how much do we sell 2 for? That is the total revenue, okay? So it means this 6 will have to be multiplied across board here, all right? Now you see that this 6, which is in cell B3, this B3 will have to be multiplied throughout. So if you decide to make it B3 multiplied by the unit, which is where we had the first one at A6, and you accept this, see, when you multiply the 6 variable revenue per unit by the unit 1, it gives us 6, right? If you drag it, what do you get? 0, because this time it is no more the B3, it has changed to B4, okay? So what we Okay, so it is the same bit rate that we need to multiply across board. So what you need to do is that when you are doing the computation, no, you see the bit rate, which is going to be constant throughout, will have to be made absolute, right? So to make the cell reference absolute, you have to type F4 key on your keyboard. Immediately you select the bit rate. If you are using a laptop, most of them you have to use the function key, that is the Fn before F4. If you are using the desktop type of keyboard, that one you just type the F4, it will be absolute for you. And this will be multiplied by the unit, which is A6. So we have the absolute of B3, that is $B$3, multiplied by A6. So when you finish, you accept this. Then you have to, you select, you point the cursor on the bottom here. You see when the cursor turns to this type of cross, right? It's different from when it is in the middle. When you get here and you get this type of cross, you have to drag it up to the 25th unit. Okay, we've calculated the total revenue for all the unit levels. Now, the next is to compute our total cost. Total cost is always fixed cost plus the total fixed cost plus the total variable cost. Now, this variable cost is variable cost per unit. So to get a fixed cost for, let's say, selling 10 units, you have to multiply the variable cost by 10 before you arrive at your total revenue. And that total revenue will be multiplied by will be added to the 100 fixed cost. Okay. So in this case also, we could have just said the variable cost per unit. This also should be absolute, okay, to be multiplied by the unit level here. And this will give us what you call the total revenue. Okay, and this total revenue will have to be added to the fixed cost. Right. Now, look at here. You see the two operations we are using are multiplication, addition. All right, multiplication, addition. So anytime you are using multiple operations, you have to test whether the board mass will work, will apply, or whether you are likely to get the correct output. You know, board mass means bracket of division, multiplication, addition. So in this case, we will not have any challenge because multiplication will apply before the addition, okay? Multiplication will apply before addition. So if you make it like this, we are right. But let's see where we can get it wrong. Let me drag this and see. When you drag this up to this point, okay, let me see whether, okay, okay. Yeah, I had this error message because you see the same face cost will have to be added throughout. So this B1 also will have to be made absolute. The B1 will also have to be made absolute because we are adding the same face cost throughout. That is it. So that is where I had it wrong. So I will drag it again. Okay, so see, when we are selling 1 unit, our total cost is 101. Why 101? Because 1 times 1 is 1 plus 100 will give us 101. When it is 2, 1 times 2 plus 100, 102. If you decide that you bring the fixed cost, so assuming I want to make it B1, which is to be made absolute, plus, then I decide to go for the total variable cost per unit, which is B2 to be made absolute, multiplied by the unit here. This one, I will not get it right because of board mass. Yeah, I think even this one too will work. Okay, this one too will work because let me see if I drag it. Okay, this one too will work. So in either way we turn it, it will work for us. All right. Now the next thing to do is to compute our profit or loss. To compute the profit or loss, we will subtract the total cost from the total revenue. So this will give me my total revenue, which is B6, minus my total cost, which is C6. Then I accept this and drag it. So having done this, we can present this on a chart and see where we have the break-even point. Break-even point is always the point where profit is zero. And you can see that at the unit level of 20, profit is zero. Okay, so break-even point is 20. That means when you sell 20 phones, you will not make profit, you will not make loss. But how do we present this on a chart? To present this on a chart, you will highlight from the unit to the profit and come down. Pick all the data. You pick all the data like this, and then we go to insert. The insert ribbon is here. We click on insert. From insert, come to the chart section. And when you come to the chart section, you see various charts. We have the scatter chart. You see, we have the scatter chart here. We have this one, which is known as a pie chart. We have this, which is known as a this is statistic chart. We have this known as hierarchy chart. So many charts are here. Okay, combo chart and others. So we go for this, which is known as the line chart. See, we also have the bar chart, but we are going to use a line chart for the break-even chart. So we click on the line chart, and when it comes, we let's pick the first one, and this is our line chart. The moment you insert the chart styles, the several styles are available. I'm going to use this one. This one gives me the line, the star 5. It gives the graph sheet. So I have my chart here. And the next one is that whenever you insert a chart in a worksheet, you can decide to change the location so that you present the chart alone on a separate sheet. So to present the chart alone on a separate sheet, you look at here. You see we have move chart location, right? Move chart. So move chart, you click on that. And now we click on the new sheet so that the chart will not be used as an object within the sheet one. And if you want it to be in a new sheet, you can label the sheet. So let me call this as the break-even. So let's say break-even. So break-even, that's the break-even chart, okay? And the whole chart is here. You get it. Now let us interpret the chart. How do we determine the break-even point from the chart? To determine break-even point from the chart, we can say that break-even point is a point where profit is zero. So the point where the profit line meets the zero line, the unit you see there becomes the break-even point. This is the zero line. The zero line is here, the horizontal line we see here. That contains the various units 1 up to 25. This line here, this yellow line, is the profit or loss line. So the point where this profit or loss line meets the zero line, which is here, the corresponding unit is 20. So that is the break-even point. Another way we can determine the break-even point is where the total cost and total revenue lines meet. So they meet at the point when they are equal, so that when you subtract them, you get zero. So this one represents our total revenue, and this line represents our total cost. The two meet here. So when it comes down, the corresponding unit becomes the break-even point. So in this particular chart, our break-even point is activity level 20. So it means when you sell 20 units of phones, there will be no profit, there will be no loss. All right, so this is the very simple way the break-even chart could be presented. We are going to look at a full illustration and see how we can compute some calculations and come out with the break-even chart. We are saying that this there is a particular institution that present this data, and they have their sales price per unit to be 12.5. Sales volume per period is 1,000 units. The variable cost component include commission per unit, direct material per unit, shipping per unit, supplies per unit, other variable costs per unit with their corresponding values. Then we have their fixed cost per period comprising admin cost of 1,002, insurance of 500. Then we have property tax of 150. We have rent of 800, and we have the other fixed cost of 750. The requirement is to construct or to determine the unit contribution margin, net profit, break-even point in units, and then to draw the break-even chart. So you're going to see how we can do all this in Excel. Okay, so we go and open a new workbook This one, just like the first approach, that is a computational approach that I gave you in the first video. And for that matter, we will have to create a sheet to contain our variable cost. So we have our variable cost sheet. Then we need another sheet for our fixed cost. We need another sheet for our break-even analysis. This is where we perform the analysis. Then we will need another sheet to do what you call the sales volume analysis, which is used for the chart. So sales volume analysis. Okay. Now, when you move on to the variable cost sheet, in cell A1, we have description. In B1, we have the amount. Okay. Now, under the description, the various variable cost elements comprising commission per unit, direct material per unit. All these are in per unit. Then we have shipping. We have supplies. We have other variable costs. Now, their corresponding values. Commission per unit is 2.5. We have 1.1. We have 0.8. And we have 1.2. Okay. Now, when we finish, like we learned in the previous video, we will have to create a table for this. So to get a table done, we go to insert. We go to insert, and then from insert, we click on table. Then you see that my table has headers is ticked. We maintain that one. We click OK. Every table you create in Excel in your work has to be named. So this particular table, we are going to name it as variable table. Table name is always found on the design ribbon. And this design ribbon is always available when you have selected your table. So you see, as the table is selected, the design ribbon is active, right? So when I go to the design ribbon, I'll see table name here. And the table name in this case is going to be variable table. And I told you the last time that your table name shouldn't contain spaces. So I put it as one word, variable table, okay? So that is my table name. Then I move on to the fixed cost sheet. Onto the fixed cost sheet, here also I have my description. I have my amount. The components are admin cost, administration cost. I have insurance. I have property tax. I have rent. And I have others. Okay, so their values. Admin cost is 1,002. Insurance 500. Property tax 150. Rent is 800. Others is 750. Okay, here too, I'll get my table, which can be Control plus T. Control plus T will give you a table. Then click OK. This table is called fixed table. Fixed table. So that is the end of the tables. The next session is move to the break-even sheet to perform the analysis. And onto the break-even sheet, in cell A1, we have sales here. In B1, we have price per unit. And in B2, we have units sold. I go to A4. In A4, I have cost. In B5, variable cost. In B6, I have fixed cost. In A7, I'll have my revenue there. In B8, I have my unit margin. The same as the contribution. I have my gross margin. The same as the total contribution. And I have my net profit here. That's a requirement from the question. Then I'll go and compute my break-even point. So break-even point in unit, break-even point in unit, right? Okay, so with this, what you do next is to name the columns. That's the column C, where we are going to type the price per unit, the unit sold, the variable cost, and all the other components. So to be able to do this, we will have to name the cells. We name cell C2 as price per unit, cell C3 as unit sold, cell C5 as variable cost. And what you need to do is to select the price per unit from B, extend to C, come down, pick all of them. From here, we go to the formulas ribbon. From the formulas ribbon, at the define name section, click on the create from selection and say create names from values in the left column, right? So left column, meaning that C, which is on the right, will be named with the value on the left, which is B, okay? So click OK, thank you. Now we've gotten our table, our names. So this is known as price per unit. This cell is called unit sold, and this one is known as the fixed cost in that order. Now the question gave us the price per unit to be 12.5. We have the unit sold to be 1,000. The rest we are going to compute them. What will be the total variable cost? Total variable cost will be the sum of the variable cost element in the table, which gives us the variable cost per unit, multiplied by the unit sold of 1,000. So to arrive at this, we use the sum function to sum up the values from the variable table. So we have sum the variable table, sum of values within the variable table, we close the bracket, then multiply by the unit sold of 1,000, which is this. So the sum of values within the variable table multiplied by the unit sold will give us the variable cost. When you finish, we accept this and we have 7,006. The fixed cost is just to sum up the values within the fixed table, and this will not have to be multiplied by the unit. So this is going to be the sum of values from the fixed table. Sum of values from the fixed table. I'll pick my fixed table here and accept this, which is 3,400. My contribution or unit margin. Unit margin or contribution is selling price per unit, selling price per unit minus the variable cost per unit. So this is going to be equal to price per unit minus the variable cost per unit is not found here. It's within the table. So it means we need to sum up those values. So the sum of values from the variable table, the sum of values from the variable table represent the variable cost per unit. We less that from the price per unit to arrive at the unit margin, okay? So we accept this, and that also gives us 4.9. So our unit margin or contribution, so the unit margin is 4.9. Now the next to do is to compute the gross margin. Gross margin is the unit sold multiplied by the unit margin. So the unit sold multiplied by the unit margin will give us the gross margin. Now the net profit. Net profit is gross margin minus fixed cost. So this is equal to gross margin minus fixed cost will give me the profit, okay? Alternatively, net profit is the total revenue minus total cost. So how do we get the total revenue here? Total revenue will be the 1,000, the price per unit of 12.5 to be multiplied by the 1,000 unit to be sold, and that gives us 12,500. And our total cost is the variable cost plus the fixed cost. That also gives us the 11,000. And when you find out the difference, give us 1,500 as the net profit. Okay, so that is our net profit. Now the next is to compute the break-even point in unit. And break-even point in unit is where we apply the if error function. So if error, the formula for break-even point in unit is fixed cost divided by contribution. So this is fixed cost divided by contribution, that is the unit margin, and that with the if error function, that will represent the value. Then comma, the value if error should be 0. The value if error is 0, and this gives us the break-even point in unit. As this is in unit, we will have to run into the nearest whole number. So come and click on the decrease decimal. So as you click on the decrease decimal, it gives us the nearest whole number, which is 694. Okay, in fact, this is where the question ends, but I would like to add something to it. Supposing, this 694 is the unit that we will sell that will not give us any profit. In case we are targeting to make a profit of, say, 500, then how much unit do we have to sell to make that profit of 1,500 cedis? So in this case, I will put in here target profit. Let me say target profit. So assuming that I'm targeting to make a profit of 500, then how much unit do I have to sell to be able to make a profit of 500? This 694 is what I will sell, not to make a profit, not to incur a loss. But if I want to make a profit of 500, then what will be the unit to sell? The function for this becomes fixed cost plus the target profit divided by the contribution. Okay, fixed cost plus target profit divided by contribution. So this is fixed cost plus target profit, that is TP, divided by contribution or unit margin. All right, now this particular expression is going to make use of the addition and the division. All right, addition and division. So let's test board mass and see how the system will understand it. Board mass means bracket of division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. It means that as we are having addition and division, the system will first work with the division before the addition. So if you put your expression like this, what will happen is that the system is going to divide it to the target profit by the unit margin before it adds to the fixed cost. And this will not be correct. So what we need to do is that we will first perform the addition in the bracket. So fixed cost plus target profit inside the bracket, okay, before we divide by the unit margin. So this is the correct way. Because of board mass, we will have to put the addition inside the bracket, and that will become bracket first before the division. All right. So we are going to see how we can get the unit to sell to be able to meet a profit of 500. So unit for target profit. Let me start here. Unit for target profit. How many units are we supposed to sell to be able to make a target profit of this? Right. You see, all these cells have been named already, but this one is not named. This target profit is not named, so I'm going to name it. Pick it like this. Go to formulas and click on the create from selection, and then OK. So I have named the 500, that is a cell C13, C15 also as target profit. Okay. All right. The next is to look at how we can determine the unit to sell in order to arrive at a target profit of 500. And this also requires the if error function. Okay. Now you see, the if error function comes with its own bracket. The computation requires the addition to be inside the bracket. So we need to open another bracket, and this is fixed cost plus the target profit of 500, close this bracket, divided by the unit margin. So this whole thing represents the value, then comma, the value if error becomes 0, we close this. So we have if error, two brackets are opened, fixed cost plus target profit, the first one bracket close, divided by unit margin, comma, 0, another bracket close. This is the total unit to be able to sell to be able to make a profit of 500. Now, when I finish, I accept this and round this to the nearest whole number. Round this to the nearest whole number. So this is telling us that if we sell 796 units, we are going to make a profit of 500. We can test to see whether indeed if we sell this, we will make a profit of 500 cedis. Let us test this. To test this, we know the fixed cost remains constant of 3,004. Now variable cost at 796 units. That will be the sum of variable table. This give us the variable cost per unit, multiply by this 796, and you give us this. Now when you finish, you add them together. And when you add them together, we get 9448.98. Then we compute the total revenue. We compute the total revenue for the 796. And to compute the total revenue for the 796, we will take this revenue, the price per unit, multiply by this 796 here, and that also give us this. The essence for the decimals is because we have run this. This is not exactly 796. It comes with some decimals. That is why we've gotten these decimals here. So now my profit, this is the total revenue, minus this is the total cost. My profit is 500, you see? So it means that to make a profit of 500, it means you have to sell this unit. Okay, so this is how the whole analysis is done. All right. So whenever you perform break-even analysis, you'll be able to know even the unit to produce and sell to make a certain profit. And sometimes when you yourself know that this particular period, my production will never result me in a profit, then you try to look at for where to produce or sell so that there will be no profit, there will be no loss. And that is what we call as the break-even point. Okay. Now, how do we present this data on a chart? To present this data on a chart, we know that the break-even chart make use of the unit, total cost, total revenue, profit. Unit, total cost, total revenue, profit. So we present this one here. So we have unit, then we have the total cost, we have our total revenue, then we have our profit or loss. Okay, so unit, total cost, total revenue, profit or loss. You see the unit, we're given only unit sold of 1,000, right? And this unit sold of 1,000 is going to be divided into 10. So if you divide 1,000 into 10, it gives us 100. So it means that you have 100 here, 200, 300, 400, up to 1,000. Okay, so let me pick this 2 and continue to drag up to 1,000. All right. Now, what will be the total cost? Total cost is the fixed cost plus variable cost. And variable cost this time is going to be variable cost at 100. And to get the variable cost, we sum up the values from the variable table, which give us the variable cost per unit. This will be multiplied by this unit, okay, before we add the fixed cost to it. So fixed cost is also here. So we have the sum of variable table giving us the variable cost per unit, multiplied by this unit, which will then give us the total variable cost plus the fixed cost to give us the total cost. All right, so we have this total cost here. Then I will have to drag it to the 1,000, and I get my total cost at each unit level. Total revenue is going to be the unit here multiplied by the revenue per unit. So how was the revenue per unit captured? I think it was captured as price per unit, right? This was captured as price per unit. So we have the total revenue to be the unit, which is B1 multiplied by price per unit. You see price per unit is here. Then we accept this also and then continue to drag it. Then the next is to compute our profit or loss. Profit or loss is the total revenue minus total cost. So this is equal to, we pick our total revenue minus then our total cost. So total revenue minus total cost give us the profit or loss. We accept this and then drag it here. So we've been gotten our total profit and loss. But with this one, you cannot easily know where there is zero, you see, you can't get it. So unless we find out, it means that, you see, that will be somewhere in between 600 and 700. And you realize that it was 694, okay? In between 600 and 700 gives us the break-even point where there is no profit or loss. And that is why we had the 694, right? So in this case, how do we present this on a chart? To present it on a chart, we pick all the data, we go to insert, and we go and use the line chart, and we pick the first one. All right. So immediately you pick it. When you are within, you can change the style. I'll pick the one with the one that gives me the graph sheet, and I'll move the chart location and label this as my break-even chart. Okay, so I've gotten my chart here. Now, you see the units on the volume analysis sheet were grouped into hundreds, 100, 200, 300, but on the chart, it gives us 1, 2, 3 up to 10. So how do we change the 1 to 100, the 2 to 200, the 3 to 300, and the 10 to 1000? To do this, you come to select data. Select data is up here. So when you click on the select data, you get the horizontal axis here. The horizontal axis is here. So we are going to edit the horizontal axis so that we change 1 to 100, 2 to 200, 3 to 300. So you click on the edit, and then because we have 1 up to 10, then you type 1 is now going to be 100, comma, 2 is going to be now 200, comma, 300, comma, you type it up to 1000, comma, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, and then 1000. So when you finish, you click OK, and now you realize, then you click OK once again. Now the units are now 100 up to 1000. Now let's see, where do we determine the break-even point here? Break-even point is where the profit line, which is this yellow line, meet the zero line. The zero line is here, and you see that it meets it not on the 700, before the 700. That is why we have 694, closer to the 700. Okay, the same way where the total cost and the total revenue lines meet. Here, if you come down, it will not be on exactly the 700. The 700 is this line. Only if you look on the graph sheet, this line, this vertical line you see here is the 700. But indeed, when you draw a line, it will not be on the same vertical line. It is very closer to that, and that is what we had as the 694 on the analysis sheet, on the break-even sheet. So this is how we also get our break-even chart with this particular illustration. Okay, so I urge all of you to keep practicing. If you face any challenge, you just contact me either on phone or through WhatsApp. My WhatsApp line is 0260 939315. Any challenge you face, you can just contact me and I'll explain to you further. Thank you very much for today's video. Okay.